This has been such a great session because literally every theme I intersect with on this with this panel, and it's just very funny. So let me tell you what was happening behind the scenes when all this was happening. So I had gone to a rare disease meeting about neuromuscular disease in France in February. There were many ill people there. There was a lot of viremia starting to happen across Europe. And I actually got sick with what may or may not have been COVID at the end of February, beginning of March.
My God.
I was so ill, and we did not even have PCR testing until the March 6th or so. And I was leaning over my bathtub with the shower on at night. I was using an asthma inhalers that I wrote myself because I couldn't get in to see anyone because at that time, the COVID surge in Boston began the first week of March. And the whole testing was just crazy. I couldn't even get into occupational health because they said, okay, you don't have a temperature. Your SAT is, I had a pulse ox from my clinic that I used. Your SAT's, 95. You don't need to go. We got all this other stuff happening. So then when I heard, I think that the twins were born the 10th of March.
They were.
I was now past the 14-day quarantine, but not quite up to speed yet. But I've been on steroids. I put myself on steroids too, which I wrote myself, by the way, because steroids work for everything. So, and at that time, the policy in our neonatal intensive care unit, I'm one of several, we've been involved in as a committee of experts in our newborn screening community in New England. I've been trying to get newborn screening for the prior 7 years to be added in Massachusetts. And I had done some of the first pilot studies in Utah before I came to Massachusetts 5 years ago. So we had just added, it's now been almost 2 years. We had just added 4 disorders as a pilot only until we got more data at the same time. And so parents had to consent, and they had to agree to verbally consent in order to do that. So they had to hear about MPS 1, X-linked ALD, Pompe disease, and SMA.
Yep.
And then they had to say yes. So Kathryn doesn't remember any of this, but at some point,
I don't remember that.
And we were only getting like about 80% of the newborns. Not everybody got that box checked. So that was another piece that fell into place. When I went to I heard about the results when they were 3 days of age. I tried to get a confirmatory sample sent from Newton Wellesley Hospital, where they were born, to Athena Diagnostics. And the courier, this happened on a Friday night or something, and the courier never picked up the sample.
I remember that.
So overwhelmed with trying to get COVID samples from the Biogen outbreak. So that's why we did the second I had sent a second backup sample to the newborn screening lab, and they confirmed. And then I drove myself another sample to Athena Diagnostics and dropped off the blood sample because I couldn't be sure that a courier would do it at the time. And we were able, via talking, United Healthcare is not a very good provider in general. Newborns are not yet on their parents' health insurance.
You're right. That's why I was shocked, actually.
Multiple people to get the approval for Spinraza, which was somewhat of a risk because we weren't, should we do gene therapy or Spinraza? But these were preemie twins. Yeah. And we don't have the safety of, the gene therapy and giving steroids and trying to make, him immunocompromised at that time when he wasn't, even feeding well, I thought was a risk. So at 9 days of age, we started the Spinraza load. We finished that load over the course of the next 60 days. And then we then had to go back to insurance and get a second approval for gene therapy, which we were able to do. Yep. Again, many peer-to-peer calls.
Unbelievable.
And then the week after we got him infused, I almost died.
Yep.
So it was very stressful that week because we had his infusion of gene therapy. It's very hard to get it to the hospital. We had
there's one of her phones.
we had one of my 2 phones. We had a lot of things going on, and the second baby with SMA was born that week. And I had known that baby was coming because we had prenatal diagnostic testing, but I had to go in the middle of the night, get that sample, drive it to Athena Diagnostics. and get that confirmation. Because again, thank God Athena Diagnostics is in Worcester. It's only an hour and a half away. So that Friday, it was very stressful. I just started the first Spinraza load on the second baby. We had done that Tuesday. I think we had done Connor's infusion. And Friday, I got a safety report because they said for the newborn that I injected on Wednesday, they were uncomfortable because I let the mom hold the baby, and that was against policy. And I was so stressed out. At the same time, I was trying that morning to get a 44-year-old newly diagnosed SMA, mother of twins, by the way, I could not get approval because she was picked up on carrier testing and had SMA herself. Mm-hmm. And I talked for 2 hours in the morning getting denial on a 44-year-old. And then I got off the teleconference from that noon thing, and I don't remember anything. And for quite a while. But apparently my sister texted me during that call, and about 40 minutes after the line was up, I texted back and said, hey, call me, right? That she was texting me worried about our parents and them going to North Carolina, right? Fine, because they're going to get COVID. And so had I not called her, she had called me back and I answered the phone. And then she made me go wake up my son. I had 6 hours of transient global amnesia. So then they called it became clear I could talk and I could but it was clear I wasn't remembering anything. So then they called my husband, who's actually in New Mexico. That's another story. We've been separated because he's there because of health reasons, because we sold our house in the fall and I'm in an apartment now, and we were going to do commuter marriage. Well, that went out the window. So long story short, we started driving to the hospital. I'm talking to my team on the way, and I'm totally coherent apparently, saying, look, you need to take over. I couldn't get approval for this 44-year-old, and you got to call the nurse, and she's got to take over for this because something happened, and I had some kind of event, and I'm going to the ER. And then halfway across the bridge, which is only 10 minutes to MGH, I had searing back pain, and I thought I was having an aortic dissection. My son was driving, and I was intact enough to call 911. Sorry. And
yep, this is how it is.
And then the paramedics came and separated me from my family. Whereupon everyone didn't realize what had actually happened, really, because the story wasn't straight. I was taken by myself, and fortunately, I have 2 phones. They only took away one. They didn't know about my work phone. So they forgot about my heart. They got distracted by my transient global amnesia. And I kept calling people on my cell phone, apparently repeatedly. I called my chief of neurology, and I called the MRI suite. And I said, I think I need to be on a heparin. I think something's going on with my heart. I think I had a dissection. Who's doing this, whatever. And so that's actually what happened. So I'm really grateful to be here, number one. Grateful that my team was able to take up the slack and finish, great that we got him dosed with that before this happened, because the truth is there's not a lot of backup built in for rare disease doctors. And there's,
that's
it's
a good point.
Huge challenge for all of us. Thank God the benefit in Boston is that had anything really happened and I had died, if I really had died instead of had this stress-induced cardiomyopathy plus emboli, if I had died, the truth is they could have gone to Boston Children's. But there's not another person at MGH who could have completely taken over.
No, I remember speaking.
Because we have 2 programs. There's one at Boston Children's and there's one here. And, there's some layers of duplication, but we alternate taking the newborns. So if I'm out, fortunately, Basil Darris will see the newborns, but we're the only 2 referral sites within the state of Massachusetts for SMA.
Unbelievable.
So it's been an amazing year. And, I'm in the position now, again, which is another stressor. I run an academic lab. I'm also part of the UDN network at our Harvard Medical School site. I work on the newborn screening stuff. I work with other rare disorders. And I didn't get my NIH funding renewed in June. So I'm kind of looking at what am I going to do come January now? What's this? And that's kind of life for rare disease doctors. I think that's it in a nutshell. Lots of people out there like me. This was a special circumstance, but there's a bunch of us across the country that are facing these kind of challenges.